GOS Grocery.
Welcome to Braille Translations. We have many years' experience providing Braille to our customers. Leaflets, signs, restaurant menus, or entire books. We're here to help. We can also provide Braille in many world languages. And no matter what the job, big or small, we can assist you with your needs. Please call us on 0800 019 0946 or visit our website at www.brailletranslations.co.uk. That's www.brailletranslations.co.uk.
A to Z Indian Grocery Mobile Shop.
உங்களுக்கு தேவையான அனைத்து விதமான இலங்கை மற்றும் இந்திய மளிகை பொருட்கள், மரக்கறி வகைகள், கடல் உணவுகள், இறைச்சி வகைகள், பிரபல்யமான அனைத்து பிராண்டுகளிலும் மிகவும் மலிவான விலைகளுக்கு நெதர்லாந்து முழுவதும் இலவசமாக வீடுகளுக்கே வந்து விநியோகிக்கப்படும்.
தொடர்பு கொள்ள வேண்டிய தொலைபேசி இலக்கம் 0638824166. A to Z Indian Grocery Mobile Shop.
இனி நேரமும் மிச்சம்,
காசும் மிச்சம்.
இணைய வெளிகளில் இமயமாய் நிமிர்ந்து நிற்கும் உங்கள் RTV தமிழ்.
நீங்கள் பார்த்து கொண்டிருப்பது RTV தமிழின் டேர்னிங் பாயிண்ட் நிகழ்ச்சி. இன்று நான் உங்களுடன் கௌரிசன் இணைந்திருக்கின்றேன். இன்றும் எங்கள் நிகழ்ச்சியில் பிரதான மாற்றுத்திறனாளி மற்றும் ஒரு நிறுவன தலைவரை பேட்டியான இருக்கின்றேன். அவர் பர்மாவை சேர்ந்தவர். அவர் காது கொஞ்சம் கேட்காது. அவருக்கு அவரை பற்றி நாங்கள் அறிந்து கொள்ள இருக்கின்றோம். அவரோடு நான் ஆங்கிலத்தில் தான் பேச இருக்க வேண்டும். அதனால் அவரை பேட்டியான இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை அனுசரணை வழங்கிக் கொண்டிருக்கின்றார்கள் streamyard.com மற்றும் Braille Translations Limited மற்றும் A to Z Global Mobile Shop. நாங்கள் மைக்கேல் ஜீவாவை கலையத்துக்கு எடுத்துக்கொள்வோம். Good evening, Michael.
Good evening, everyone. Yes.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for coming to my show, Turning Point Show on RTV Tamil. This shows people watch all over the world, like via Facebook and YouTube, and also Eagle TV in Canada. If you need to watch the channel, you need to subscribe to the Facebook or YouTube channel. Otherwise, you can't watch it. So, Michael, thanks for coming. And how are you this evening and Sunday evening, sir?
Very well, thank you. And thank you for having me on your program, the show. And I'm delighted to be here with all of you. And I still remember, Vanakkam, everyone.
Vanakkam.
Vanakkam, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for the introduction.
You're welcome. So we're going to find out about yourself, about your family, about your education, and also you're involved with disabled people in UK and internationally, and also you're involved with UN as well, affiliate with UN. And also you are uh, the CEO of the organization and find out about the organization more. Okay. Okay. Start with the question is, um, can you tell me your family background, please, Michael?
Yes, yes, I'll be delighted. Uh, I I was born and brought up in Burma. It's called Myanmar now. However, I am actually Indo-Burman because our forefathers uh, went to Burma from Surat, which is in Gujarat, and so they migrated there and intermarried, and together with people from Madras and people from Marwar and Sindh, they all went because the British invited them to go and develop this backwater, they used to call Burma, backwater country. And this group of people from India, they went there and developed it economically and in every other way, marvelously. And so Burma then became very attractive in Asia. And
Yeah.
so and we are from the business community, so the all business people and
Okay.
commerce and industry. On education, shall I go on my education?
So, yeah, can you tell us about your education and training, please?
Yes, yes. As children of the business community, uh, we were sent to independent schools. So I went to this independent boys' high school run by Christian priest, and after that, I had to attend commercial college. The reason is that I was expected to join the business and take on the business, and so I even remember now also a short crash course in therapeutics pharmaceuticals because my father was going to diversify into pharmaceutical in his import lines. So I remember I had to know, what the different kinds of antibiotics, because at that time we had broad spectrum antibiotics, streptomycin, and then the other antibiotics, penicillin, vitamins. This dexamethasone, which is now being greatly mentioned, useful in the COVID fight against the COVID. This used to be available since then for lung-related illnesses, and it's still quite cheap. This medicine, amazing. So that was our line, and so we were prepared. So I was prepared with the commercial knowledge, commercial training, and to take on, on the business, and on the brink of this, until one morning, the tanks rolled in. The military tanks rolled in. That was the original coup. You see the coup now. It's I think it's like third or fourth. The first one, original one. So they came and took away all the businesses
Yeah.
from international trade to retail trade. If that was not enough, they demonetized the
Yeah.
military, demonetized the notes. So overnight, people lost immense assets and whatever their wealth, and some people went out of their minds. Those
Yeah.
who had worked hard to build up their businesses, they went out of their minds. So then after after a few years, they brought in the that Orwellian, the suppression dictatorship,
Yeah.
and our thinking, our speech, everything was policed. So we some of us could not take it. So we decided to leave the country. Some went to Australia. Some of my friends went back to Madras. We had very good friends, from Tamil speaking.
Yeah.
Warsi Ibrahim family, very prominent in Rangoon. So they went back to Madras, and I decided to come to the UK and
Okay.
start a new life.
Yeah, I heard from my ancestor, my family, they used to live in Burma. They walked from Burma, Rangoon to Malaysia, Singapore, and Sri Lanka. Actually, there's a
Oh,
long,
interesting.
yeah, it's a long story. They tell us when I was young age. Anyway, yeah,
Oh,
my
yes, yes, yes.
great grandfather. It's quite difficult areas, country, isn't it? That time, yeah,
Oh, it's been going on for nearly half a century.
yeah,
That big brother state and
uh,
people, long suffering people. Anyway, so I decided to start a new life, but I wanted to uh, continue with our family business, and because I had these two favorites
mhm,
lines.
yeah,
One was the
hmm,
export merchanting, and I've always wanted to start manufacture something,
yeah,
and the industry. That's from my maternal grandfather's side. Anyway, that interest. So here, when I got to the UK, to England, I took up a design and manufacture course in that college in East London, Court Venice, and then I set up a company to run export merchanting. Because you see, what attracted me was that it doesn't require a
yeah,
large amount of money or resources. All you need is a couple of. That's how I saw my father and my uncles operating. Two couple of desks, and then just a telex machine, telephone, all that. So we had a section which dealt with export merchanting. I wanted to do that in
yeah.
England, so I set up a company, and I started accumulating all
So,
the. Yeah.
uh, so when did you immigrate to UK, and how did you find a new immigration life in UK, Michael?
So at that time, it was during the 70s,
Okay.
and it was very good, and there was no shortage of job work. The people used to walk in and out of job, in one day, 2 days, and I found it was very the liberty, the freedom was something of people like us who stayed under that dictatorship, that distorted ism that promised something and they did something. Like the book that George Orwell wrote, at the
Mhm.
Animal Farm. So some of the animals are more equal than the others. So
Yeah.
that sort of thing was no more there. So England had offered quite a lot of opportunity.
Opportunity. Yeah.
Yes, and so that's why I want to take it up. But here's the interesting thing: the fate played a role. Now, uh, you see, our family, Jeewa family, have this heredity of bone, inner bone thickening. So at a certain age, the bones start thickening. So the sound is a bit blocked. So
Mm.
my doctor said, go and get an operation. At that time, there was something new where they replaced the bone with some artificial thing. And so, but nobody, I was not warned that there's a 50-50 chance that it would fail and that I would lose my balance and lots of other complications, which happened. I went in
Yeah.
to get better, and I came out worse off with a damaged membranes, damaged balance, and it is replaced. Or the hearing is gone completely on my right, dead. Now replaced by tinnitus. Tinnitus, if you know, is a sound like the ship's siren,
Yeah.
huge sound inside. Oh my goodness! If you keep concentrating on that sound, you could go out of your mind. So
Mm.
I started practicing meditation to move my concentration away from that sound to distracted myself. So that is something. So at that time, of course, I was very angry. I didn't realize that this is maybe a destiny or some blessing in disguise. Anyway, so I started taking a lot of interest in disability,
Mm.
and not just in hearing impairment disability, but also in other disabilities, because I realized at that time that if I started facing barriers, then how would the others be facing it, especially our ethnic minority disabled people? So
Yeah.
I began to take interest in various disabilities, and then decided that I must go and work in a disability organization to get first-hand experience, which I did. I worked for Islington Disablement Association. I don't know if you remember this. This was led by Frances Hassler, Miss Frances Hassler, and the whole team was brilliant. I learned so much in that organization, and all about disability equality, disability activism, lobbying and campaigning. I used to go marching with them to the Elephant and Castle, to the DHS office, and Mr. Jeremy Corbyn used to come with that with banners, and we would all go. And then I would sometimes go with them to the BBC studios, ITV, BBC. I remember chaining myself to the railings because we were protesting at the negative, pathetic images presented on TV screen about disabled people, because they're trying to raise money, you see. So they have to show those. They did. So we stopped all that, and as you probably know, then it was replaced by some positive scenes and things like that. So that was
Still is a negativity in the
yes, yes, yes.
broadcasting media and so on, but still getting there anyway. Still improving. Yeah.
Incidentally, when I was in Sri Lanka, you may remember we spoke on the radio, Sri Lankan radio, and giving a bit of an education on even the vocabulary that could discriminate. Something like, calling people crippled and
Yeah.
deaf and dumb.
Yeah.
Just there is the here, the brain is there right in the middle of the two ears, but people dismissed, invalidated. So things like that are something I learned greatly from Islington Disablement Association. And during that time, there was a conference. That when I met you, there was a conference in Brixton, disability within the Asian community, or something like to that effect. The theme was, and where I attended, and lots of issues were raised. This was the first of its kind on Asians and disability, and lots of issues were raised on the needs, unmet needs of the carers, disabled women, young people, and the housing needs and all that. And that's when I think Narendra, the late Narendra from Association of Blind Asian was there, and so we after the conference we decided to form together into a group to address those issues, and that's what we did. We got together. In the beginning, there was quite a lot of enthusiastic people. Then slowly withered away, and we were left with a core group of people, very anxious to make changes, and so we kept the momentum going while we applied for funding, and the funding that we applied for was very realistic, just the amount we needed, but we only received a fraction, or maybe a quarter of what we applied for. So, but nevertheless, we were keen.
That's why initial point, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, that's the start of APDA. Now, so the
so just to remind our viewers, APDA stands for Asian People Disability Alliance.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. And So the chairwoman was Mrs. Bameda, who had a severely disabled child. She was working in the race relations department of a local authority. So she coordinated, synchronized with us, and we decided to do something. And Narendra was, of course, with us, and some few members from Brent. So somebody found a porter cabin to
Yeah.
share, a small room in a porter cabin.
Yeah.
And that is when APDA was formed, formally registered, and launched.
That's good.
Yeah.
ஆமாம் நேர்களே, நீங்கள் பார்த்து கொண்டிருப்பது ஆர்டிவி தமிழின் டேர்னிங் பாயிண்ட் நிகழ்ச்சி. இன்று உங்கள் கௌரவன் காத்துக் கொண்டிருக்கின்றேன். அவர் இன்றும் ஒரு மாற்றுத்திறனாளி மைக்கேல் ஜீவா அவர்களை பேட்டியாக இருக்கின்றேன். இன்றும் உங்கள் நிகழ்ச்சியை அனுசரணை வழங்கிக் கொண்டிருக்கின்றார்கள் streamyard.com மற்றும் braille translations.co.uk மற்றும் A2EB Global Mobile Shop. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's yeah. You're telling Michael
Thank you.
about the quarter cabin. Yeah.
Yes, porter cabin. But you see, we did the launch at this porter cabin, and we invited people, from all sectors. And the mayor at the time of Brent was Councillor Lata Patel. Now, Mrs. Patel at once discovered the potential of APTA, and she allocated a sum of grant for us to help us with this beginning. And some of the other groups were not happy. They said we have just started. They've been around there for some time. That they deserve to be. But Councillor Patel, Mrs. Patel, was very adamant. She could foresee the future of APDA. Yeah, now it's in the 30th year. So so she gave us that money. That helped greatly. And then we attended meetings. Oh yes, I almost forgot. So the funds were not that much inadequate, so we could afford only this room. And then we could only allocate an amount to pay for a worker, a development worker, to develop the organization. And we tried to recruit not once but twice, and there was no response. We were not paying good. So now there's a dilemma. So I said I'll take up the challenge. So I asked myself to be excused from Islington Disablement Association, and I joined ABDA and decided to take it up, the challenge of developing it. So, and I began to attend these meetings, health authority meetings, social services meeting. At one of those meetings, I came across a gentleman, a fine gentleman. He was the manager of Wilsden Community Hospital. And he invited us. And then he offered us to his community hospital. And he offered us an office there, a proper office. And then he also offered us the use of the League of Friends Hall from the hospital for our activities, direct interaction with the users. And so we moved then to Wilsden Community Hospital, and marvelous. There's a saying, isn't it, that when something has to happen, good thing, then the whole universe conspires to make it happen. And so in that hospital, there was the disability activist, Andrew Little. He was a disabled person himself with cerebral palsy. And he worked with us. He supported us. And we did so many things there. That's when we went with some more campaigning to do with the disability activists and all those top disability activists that time. And this British UK disability movement was right at the top, forefront. When the UN started drawing up the charter, the clauses, many of these clauses were taken from the UK movement. Anyway, so in that community hospital, we did some work. And So shall I carry on?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's fine. You carry on. Yeah.
Okay. So and then at that time there were riots in Britain. You had riots in where the Bristol, Birmingham, or was that? Yeah, uh, Brixton, yeah,
Yeah.
and Birmingham and places like that. So the minister, environmental minister at that time, was Michael Hasseltine. So Mr. Hasseltine decided to do a program of regeneration of deprived boroughs. And so Brent, London Borough of Brent, where we are based. So the Brent was invited to bid, and so Brent started mobilizing, collecting all the bids, and invited us to bid. So we did. We needed more premises because there was so much demand. Because the services that we offered was very unique, very special, very sensitized, as you know, Gao. It was tailor made for the cultural needs of our community. And so there were more and more demand across 17 London boroughs, and at that time, so we needed that. So we
Yeah.
put in our bid, and luckily we were successful. When Brent was successful, we were part of it,
Yeah.
and we were given a sizable amount of money. But however, we wanted to go to a high street or somewhere attractive and get passing customers, disabled people, and shop front and all that to generate some income. But we were directed to go to the hospital, Central Middlesex Hospital, very large one, and there to help renovate a dilapidated building with the funds. And
Okay.
we had to do that. And we had to put the funds in and develop a dilapidated building, which was, rainwater dripping and all the rodents running around.
Mm.
We developed it, and with our disability activists giving all their support with all the kinds of accessibility issues, everything, the aspects, and so that dilapidated building became a fully accessible premises with
Yeah.
all the textile paving, the induction loop in the fabrics of the walls, and toilets, disability toilets, and rooms for soundproof rooms for therapies. All that we had, and there we developed a lot of activities and projects.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So, yeah. So, and also you started another organization called Burmese Community as well. Is that correct?
Yes, yes,
Can you
yes,
tell us about more about it, please?
yes, and also a housing association. That housing association was to address the issue raised at the last conference, because they said housing was not accessible, and
Mm.
also people, Asian people, disabled people, were isolated in those large housing estates and getting racially harassed and abused and all kinds of things. So they were. So I spoke to these housing department people and agencies, and then we managed to get again some funds to appoint a housing development officer, and we started this housing. Yes, now the name of the housing is Apna Ghar Housing Association. Who gave the name? Mr. Narendra Mehta,
Yeah.
Association of Blind Asians. We used to have meetings in people's houses,
Yeah.
and sometimes at Mukesh Patel's house, and sometimes at Narendra Mehta's house. Mr. Mehta actually gave us that name. Let us name it Apna, our own house.
Mm.
And we then took an office very near to Wilson Community Hospital in Hawthorne Road, and that's where we started our first was work was doing managing agents for Asra housing. Asra, you must have heard, for Asian elderly people. So Asra housing. After that, it began to multiply, managing agent, several properties all over London, and I couldn't keep up with that activity because of the increase in the volume of work at APDA. So I had to ask some of our committee members to go and help develop the Apnagar. Now it's very much developed. When
Is that true? Late Mahesh Amin is part of the Abnagar as well. Is that correct?
he was with us, yes, yes. No, the original founder members, myself, then our previous chair, he joined us then, Mr. Ashok Ghosh,
Yeah.
and Narendra Mehta, and Mukesh Patel. Mukesh Patel is a physically disabled person. And so four of us. And then the others joined in. So Mahesh Amin, may his soul rest in peace. Mahesh Amin used to work for Brent Council in the finance department. So and then he used to come and do volunteering work with us. Now when Brent Council began this reconfiguration, that's what they call it, very cost saving thing. And when they did that, he was made redundant. And coincidentally, at that time, there was a vacancy for a direct services manager who could run a daycare services. So, and he applied for it, and of course he was, so a fully empowered disabled person, and who was living independently, and he knows all about it. And yes, so then he was one of those who I requested to go and assist Apna Ghat. So he joined it. And our Mr. Ghosh, the previous chair of APDA, is very elderly now. And so he also joined there as the chair. I think Mahesh was the secretary. And another member of APDA was also requested. And his name is Ashwin Ved. Ashwin Ved was very good with accounts. He was working in an employee. Yes, so, and the Burma organization, because, our Burmese community, because of the big arm of the big brother in Burma, they were all afraid. They were all hidden communities. And it needed something to bring them out together and because people were homesick, they were lonely, isolated, many of the elderly, So we decided, again, four of us, we decided to set up this community association called Myanmar Burma Burma. We wanted to maintain that name, Burma Relief and Welfare Association. And we did over 10 years of marvelous work. We had, you may remember, the development project. We had project for young people, new visitors, new arrivals to the UK from Burma, and we have one or two other projects that advice and information, because people needed advice. The same thing at APDA. If people were not aware of their entitlements, their benefits and entitlements, and they were missing out on all those things and the opportunities in the mainstream, because some of them actually think that these services, these facilities in the mainstream was not for them. It was for the indigenous communities. And so we had to give them the right kind of, in an accessible manner, with different languages. Between us, we speak several languages, and both at the Burma organization as well as APDA. So we gave, and we not only here in the UK with the Burmese community. We also assisted when there was the disaster, the Nargis cyclone disaster, and then the tsunami that happened that affected Burma. The cyclone was terrible. They were devastated, They were, and so we assisted the farmers with their, the machines and many others with the supporting. We gave them a lot of support at that time. So that was in this country. Our organization was first to celebrate publicly the water festival. It's we have this in April. Yeah, we could not celebrate this because of the situation in Burma. We felt everyone was mourning. So that time we celebrated the first one. We all kinds of classical dancing and all that, and so this was something that we did. Now, in the Central Middlesex Hospital, our achievements were that we were able to link. We were affiliated then with the UN as an NGO with consultative status with the Economic and Social Council, and then we networked with the European Disability Forum. We sent our representative to the UN to give them our experience, so that in the developed countries people could replicate, learn something. And in Europe, I went there personally to give a talk when the new East Europeans joined, and the EU, and they wanted to know how the ethnic minorities in the UK were doing. So I had to go and tell them about that situation, and so we did so, and then we participated in the European Disability Forum. And we were again successful, and we had a publication project, and the launch was made by the minister at that time, and then we had the European bus came all the way from Brussels to England to tour, and came to spent a whole day, and we had with disabled people came to our center, and we had a sort of a picnic like atmosphere, and we had good fun at that time. So we celebrated the Jubilee of the Queen, when we invited the royal family, and Princess Royal came to visit us, honored us with a visit to us, and we developed various other projects. So we were effectively providing support services to people from South Asia and Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
And so from South Asia, we have all those, our international work, and all our members. And from the MBRWA, we had people from Southeast Asia. So that is something we did. We took care of their isolation problems, their lack of awareness, lack of knowledge about opportunities, all that. At APDA, Mahesh joined. After Mahesh joined, we did Mahesh joined. It was a very good thing when Mahesh joined, because with Mahesh, I had only had to tell him, Mr. Mahesh Bhai, this is what we want to do. And he systematically, efficiently and effectively, he would carry it out. And we would offer independent living to people, because we had our Apna Ghar to offer the bricks and mortar. And we had, at the Central Middlesex Hospital, we had a training kitchen for disabled people in wheelchair, the top to go up and down to accommodate them. And then we offered them home care, befriending. At that time, it was befriending and sitting service. Now it's become home care because of the changes in the Brain Council. And so the befriending and sitting service was very useful because we were taking our services to people's homes who could not come because of their severity or disability. They could not come to the center. We took our services to people's homes. And so that's something that we managed to do at the center, in the center. And employment, we worked with brand councils, employment department. We worked with Remploy, and
Yeah.
we helped them to find. Remploy actually gave us awards for 2 consecutive years for helping them create jobs and helping them with their trainees to find jobs, giving them confidence, culturally sensitive support to them. So they were referring Asian disabled people to us. Some of them we actually employed in our organization. And so for these things, maybe they gave us awards for consecutive
That's
years.
good. That's good. It's quite a long story. Yeah, we need a whole day for this kind of
Oh,
broadcast.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Yeah. Can you tell us about the international activities and overseas activities, APDA point of view?
Yes, yes. Yes, international. Now, the we we felt that if the situation in the UK for people like us, ethnic minority disabled people, was a struggle, yeah, for equal opportunities and all kinds of barriers to surmount, we felt that those people in those developing countries, or call it underdeveloped countries, what the situation must be with them. So we decided we will do something for our peer groups in the developing countries of South and Southeast Asia. And we came across this academic, a professor Professor Barker, Ali Barker. He was running an organization called Concerned Action Now, CAN. So he proposed that we work with them, with for disabled people in the slums of Delhi. It was in Delhi, and so we actually supported from our APD's own budget to work with them to enable equality for those. You can imagine people living in slums. What are their status? So if you're a disabled person and a child living in those slums, what would be their position? So this the late Professor, a marvelous gentleman, he helped a lot those slums, and I myself went in there and in those slums and actually saw what they were doing, how they were giving those who needed skills so that they could go for government contract, and those children with education, and they were facilitating them for integrated education. And so that was something we did for many years until the professor passed away, and that can was absorbed by a larger organization. And like I said, for Pakistan, we had this young lady who came to give volunteer help. She learned about our work. So when she went back, she proposed to us to assist her. So we, in setting up this similar thing, so we guided and helped, gave advice to set up this organization, a day center, very similar to us. And it is now running successfully, and it's called V-Care, V for Victor, C-A-R-E Care, V-Care. And so we are very happy that it's progressed. Then I went to Thailand. In Thailand, I had to go to northern part of Thailand, very near the Laos border. There are groups of disabled people and with different disabilities. They wanted to form into an alliance and a center because somebody gave them information about our work at this center in Central Middlesex. So I took them designs and things to show them, about, and discuss with their Thai architects and engineers, builders, then and also about forming an alliance and for funding meetings with the mayor of that northern part, and then some of them who wanted to go into social enterprise. So I took them to the British embassy. Britain was promoting through their embassies social enterprise at that time, and I
Yeah.
put them in touch with them. And so that is something that we did in northern Thailand. Then
Yes.
yes, and what I came across was very interesting. Visually disabled people, a group about 10 people. They were like a cooperative. They were working, you know, therapeutic massage, and then whatever they earned, they shared it. They lived together. Yeah, they paid for all the utilities, whether although they don't consume well. And then that was they wanted to move to the high street so that to attract. And so this is something that again I discussed, negotiated, and pleaded with the mayor because the mayor wanted to leave something behind, a legacy. That's why I said that is the legacy you could leave behind, Mr. Mayor. And so this was something. Now this very interesting thing was ironically when I was in Sri Lanka when we were there, Gao, we
Yeah.
came across this. I don't know whether you remember this household where there were two or three, two, I think, people with visual disabilities,
Yeah.
and so they were living on this government subsidy or fund, whatever, very small amount. And when I asked them whether they wanted to earn some money, they said, what could they do? They could only go out and beg. So I
Mm.
gave them the example of the people in Thailand, how they are. So, and hope they took that advice. But nevertheless, we got together from our own pocket. We put some fun, and their house was on the lane. So we set up a grocery store for them,
Yeah.
and I think they kept running. You may remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah.
Yes, that is now Burma and Bangladesh were recent. Burma, because I was always bombarded with requests to come and share our experience, which we gained in the West. So I took our Mr. Daya with me, physiotherapist, senior physiotherapist, and so we went there and we did a project. Yeah, thanks to APDA that who, you know who gave us support to do that, and we worked with disabled groups and gave them training, disability equality training. By the way, I am a disability equality trainer. I train with the LBDRT Atlanta, London Borough Disability Resource Team. Oh, and it trained top people like all those now all retired like
Yeah.
yeah. So so I gave them disability equality training. I attended seminars to put those points across, and then a few other things like we gave them disability equipment. I took hearing aids from one of my daughters works in the hospital. She managed to get those used hearing aids, and I
Mm.
took, and all they had to do was do a little bit of here and there, and the things work. And so we
Yeah.
gave away those, and then we bought a couple of wheelchairs and walking frames. So these were the things that we did, and I left behind a plan for them to set up their own organization. That was Burma. The most
Yeah.
recent one, the most recent one was Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm.
Bangladesh, see, as you probably know, we have over 1 million refugees from Burma, forced to disappear. The refugees in Sri Lanka was internally displaced. This group of people are forced disabled people, FDP, and so I went with some professionals, including our Taya and Dr. Saleh, another medical professional, So, and I actually visited this largest camp in the world, Kutapulong, and there I saw young people aimlessly walking around, ripe for exploitation by all these, traffickers and all. And this is very concerning. And then we also this was disability scoping. So there we'd identify so much disability needs within the camps. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then in the city, in Dhaka itself, we saw we went and visited institutions for disabled people, and there again I distributed some hearing aids, and we have kept in touch, and we are just hoping to start a project. We have an interest from a local organization wanting to do a daycare. So keeping our fingers crossed someday that might materialize, like it did in Pakistan.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so, what is the APDFS and project during the lockdown period, Michael?
The lockdown period. Yes. You see, now important is that we had to keep our members, service users, contact with all, and the service users and the members and staff all in touch with each. The rapport we didn't want it to break. It's just because lockdown, we just didn't shut up and then locked down and locked our activities. We kept the activities going. We provided vital information to ensure people felt informed, yeah, and providing information in key Asian languages. Again, like I said, between us we speak several Asian languages, and we disseminated those information, essential information on pandemic measures. So, and we adapted and developed new models of service delivery. We call it reconfigured our services to suit the the situation. Yeah. And and then there was something like 5-strand model of services of daycare, yeah, and
Yeah.
rest. And then the one we had the doorstep welfare checks. Yeah, in addition to telephone weekly checks, we had
Mm.
this, and then we also have in the home activities. We put after the risk assessed and safety measures, we would send our people home to do home activities, and then in community trips and activities. For instance, we would to take them to the sports centers and do sports activities, then lock down and then ease again. So that's the kind of thing that we kept on going because we become like a family,
Yeah.
because the whole reason for coming into existence was because we wanted to give that sensitized services which they would get from their family members. Like, we call it, in Hindi, there's seva. And then in Urdu, it says dekhbal, look after, like the family looks after. We introduced that ethics into our work. So there was no way we could keep away from our members because we realized that if that happens, their conditions would deteriorate just drastically. So we explained that we put this forward to the authorities and successfully secured 4 mini projects, funding for 4 mini projects during the past 12 months, which is again hard work by Zealand and the others, and that enabled us to better support our service users throughout the pandemic. I mean, we were still in the pandemic. So befriending project to tackle isolation. We have people with dementia, and it impacts a lot on the people with that. To support users at home whose cognitive impairments have deteriorated during the lockdowns. Then we
Yeah.
had, like I said, sports activities. So during those easing, whoever we are allowed, we would take them to the sports center and to do sporting activities and dancings, aerobics, Indian, I mean, Asian style aerobics, and then something for a mental health support project for disabled Asian women, which we are in the process of doing in another part of London, in East London, because we have reports of serious situation in that, and we have decided we're going to do something. So this is uh, something that we have been doing uh, during
Yes.
the lockdown, and
That's good. That's good. ஆமாம் நேர்களே, நீங்கள் பார்த்து கொண்டிருப்பது டேர்னிங் பாயிண்ட் நிகழ்ச்சி ஆர்டிவி தமிழ் மூலமாக பார்த்து கொண்டிருக்கிறீர்கள். இன்று உங்கள் டேர்னிங் பாயிண்ட் நிகழ்ச்சியில் நான் கௌரிசன் உங்களுடன் இருக்கின்றேன். இன்று நாங்கள் மாற்றுத்திறனாளி மைக்கேல் ஜீவாய் அவரை பேட்டியில் இருக்கின்றோம். இன்னும் சிறிய நேரத்தில் நிகழ்ச்சி நிறைவுபட இருக்கின்றது. அதுக்கு முன்ன வர பற்றி சில விடயங்களை அறிந்து கொள்வோம். So, Michael, we are nearly coming to the end of the show. Can you tell us about the future plan, please, for the APDA?
The future post-pandemic, that's
Yeah.
very crucial. Now, post-pandemic, we have to ensure that we continue with that support, but in a reconfigured way. Again, like what we're doing now. So some services for in the community, some through virtual, through the internet, through Zoom activities, and some through visit to community centers, and then building-based services. Building-based, you see, our organization, our center, our building is a community-based building. It's where specialist services are given, and you see, and so that is essential that we include that. So we will hopefully, start those daycare services again, and like the family gathering, family group reunited again, and then we will maintain that, and all the measures necessary to be safe for our people, not just the users, mind you. We have always had, our service was always holistic, not just for the users, but also for their carers and families. So when Mr. Mahesh Amin, may his soul rest in peace, was running it, he would arrange respite, separately for the users and separately for the carers and families, to give them a good break. And so this, and then wherever that we have to take them, it's fully accessible and fully sensitive to our need. So all these things, we have always maintained that, and we will continue to do that, so that we will take care of our users, who are like families, their mental and physical health and well-being. We'll look after them.
That's good. That's good to hear. And we're coming to interesting part of the conversation. You got 2 awards from Royal Family, is that correct?
Yes. When
Can you tell
Royal
our viewers?
family,
Sorry. Can you let us know about the awards, please?
Awards. Oh, the awards. Yes, one we managed to get for our previous chair, the OBE. Yeah, and then recently, for the kindness of management committee members, and they managed to approach the royal household and managed to get me the British BEM, British Empire Medal. That's it, British Empire Medal. And we were invited to Buckingham Palace for a reception there, and which I've already covered about the visit from royal family. So these, and then as a result of that award, British Empire Medal. Yes, and the community is another forum called run by the Houses of Parliament. It's called British Community Honours Award. This is for ethnic minorities doing something for the community, exception, whatever. So they also gave me an award. And then the business community, Asian business community, gave an award to our organization because we have sustained it for over 30 years now. Only last year we said, oh, not last year, before the pandemic, we celebrated the 30th year, and you very kindly with your group came to gave a marvelous performance. Thank you.
Thank
And
you very much.
so, yeah, that's it. We got time now. Yeah, the times are busy. So this is something that we have done over the years, and we still have support from groups like you, yeah, and others, and so this is something that I'm very grateful. Again, grateful for giving me a chance to bring to all of you, the something about our organization, about us, about myself, in particular. And
So, what are you going to say? What do you like to say to RTV Tamil viewers and listeners, Michael Jeewa?
well, something very interesting. Fate, you cannot go against the fate. I had, I was born part of the business trade and industry family, and I had earlier an interest to start businesses in this country, but the fate played a part and got me into disability, and I never looked back. I get so much satisfaction, which no businesses, no property, no assets could ever give me. And I would say that always have in your whatever you are. I'm not discouraging you to do business. I'm just saying that always have in compassion, in I think in your that's called karuna, and that's something that we have in our Burmese language also. It's called gayuna. Gayuna, we have it for people so we can share. If we share something, then life would be very good.
That's good. Thank you very much for giving us your time all this evening for 1 hour, nearly 1 hour on the Sunday evening. You need to spend the time with your family, and I would like to thank you from myself and also my colleague Riaz and also RTV Tamil team, and also thank you for coming to my show, Turning Point Show, and thank you very much, Michael. I'll speak to you soon.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.